And he just keeps going off. And if I was fired him, he becomes an alcoholic. And there's a minority town in Bardstown. And they got him back to the Philippines where he was actually announcing cockfights in Spanish. And it's great, but there's a great way, and then that's what and there's a lot of people. He's trying, he's bored, so he's trying to speak PA announcer, he's trying to start fighting other minors. So he starts telling me that he puts him one mode in the sand. It's a depressed time. Yeah, and the name of the town is Marsville. Pennsylvania, they're not allowed to frack anymore, right? But if you get it, it's FRACK. But so he starts talking about it. These times. Working in the market. They're communists. Waiting for the next one. We walk away from the sit back one.
Well, if I got one of the right over top. Bill.
Just check.
We're good. I'd like to call this Academic Assembly 2017 to order. I want to welcome on board our campuses, Warner Robins, Cochran, Dublin, and Eastman. I appreciate all of those that have worked very hard with me, coordinating all this, bringing us together for this Academic Assembly 2017. It's much like I was talking earlier with Dr. Blake. This is almost like a ritual, a meeting that definitely we do. You know, there's no doubt about that. And so I appreciate all of you coming out in a rather stormy day. Some of you came in soaked, and it is, you know, I know some of you, when you came in here, you appreciate the cool air. If you got baptized by water, you probably don't. Right now, the fact that it is a little bit cold in here as you came in with the rain and so forth coming down. We're going ahead and getting started so that hopefully we can get out of here in a timely fashion. Last year, we ran the meeting about 1 hour and 10 minutes, which I thought was good. So we're going to try to do that again today. As far as the quorum call, let the minutes show that we have a quorum present in order to conduct this academic assembly. Each of you received 2 emails that had 2 attachments. One was the agenda. The other was the minutes from April the 29th of 2016 last year. And you've had time to read those minutes. And at this time, I would entertain a motion to accept those minutes. Do I hear a motion? Okay. Do I hear a second? Okay. That's very good. I appreciate that. When you make a motion, if you will mention your name, that will help with the taking of the minutes there for sure. So I appreciate that. All in favor? Aye. Okay. So the minutes are approved. The third item was unfinished business. We did not have any. And that moves us to the approval of graduates. I'm going to ask Registrar Brenda Hogan if she'll come forward.
Hello. For the spring semester, we will have 606 graduates, and that represents a 3% increase from last year for the spring semester. Of course, for the term, for this class of 2017, we have 1,082 students for graduation, and that represents a 2% increase from 2016. For the baccalaureate students, we will have 692 students, and that's a 9% increase from last year. Graduation this year will be on May 10th and the 11th. With the first ceremony will be health sciences, which will be the largest of all 3 ceremonies. The second one will be on the 11th of May at 10 a.m., and that will be the College of Arts and Sciences and Georgia Academy. At 2 o'clock, we will have the School of Aviation, Business, School of Education, and Information Technology. We are looking forward to another joyous occasion to celebrate graduation. We expect everyone to be there. We still have tickets, a few extra ones, but the first ceremony is totally booked. We have no extra tickets. Students have picked up tickets this week, and there are about 40 that did not pick up tickets, so we don't know if those will be extras or they will be contacting us on Monday. That's all I have. Thank you.
You've heard Registrar Hogan's report. Do I have a motion to approve the list of graduates? Did I have a motion? Okay, and your name? Rebecca Lanning. Do I have a second? Second, Chris Hill. And all in favor? Aye. The list of graduates are approved. Next item of our business would be to elect officers for the academic year 2018, parliamentarian and faculty vice chair. We have 1 nominee, Dr. Kimberly Pickens, and 2 nominees, Dr. Lolita Sarton and then also Peter Garais for faculty vice chair. And at this time, I want to ask Bill Hervey if he'll preside over that.
Hello. As Troy said, we're going to be electing vice chair and parliamentarian. We have a process where people can be pre-nominated. That has happened with a few folks, but I'm also going to open it up to the floor now for nominations. We're going to do this across all of the 5 campuses that are hearing us today. We have some folks down here, as we have done in the past, with telephones. So excuse me, there's a 30-second delay. So we'll go from there. First, I'm going to ask the folks on the telephone to look at each other and ask if anyone in any of those places want to be nominated for vice chair. And I'm going to ask the folks in Macon, do we have any more nominations for vice chair of this assembly? Okay. No nominations for vice chair from Macon. All righty. Let's go to the phones. You know, we could raise money as a telethon too. We have no nominations from Dublin. No nominations from Eastman. No nominations from Warner Robins. The pressure is on Cochrane. Charles is waiting. I thought Lolita said she was going to be nominated. Okay, she is. Yeah, she's already nominated. Do we have anybody from Cochrane? No more? We got to make sure we do everybody evenly. It's a well-oiled machine today. Okay. I'm not going anywhere. I got 100 people looking at me. Okay, we got it. Okay. All right, Cochrane's in. So the only 2 nominees are from Cochrane, Peter Garais, and from Macon, Dr. Lolita Sarton. And so you've all been given a ballot. I know how fancy that is. Okay, Peter Garais, and Lolita Sarton. I'm going to ask you on that, just for Peter Garais, please put a big G on there. And for Lolita, just put a big S. That's it. Very fancy. Spare no expense. Really? Well, it'd have to be F and S for Florida State, though. So if you want Peter Garais, just put a G on there so we can read it. And for Lolita Sarton, put an S. If you like the ballots, where do you see our boxes? Wait, one more. Everybody done? All right, the folks in the other campuses, they should be having the same kind of instructions. We're going to be calling in with their numbers. All right, before we start collecting the ballots, hold on to them. We got one more thing to do. Oh, no, that's right. We just got the one nominee. Being only one nominee for parliamentarian, Kim Pickens, we're going to not use the paper. We're just going to go to voice, okay? All in favor of Kim Pickens as parliamentarian, signify by saying aye. Anyone saying against, please say no. Macon is clearly ayes. The folks want to call in from Cochrane and the other campuses, we can do that while we collect these ballots, so please call in. We'll be back at the end of this to tell you the, now please pass your ballots to an end of the aisle. Maybe you're right, and we'll pick them up with our boxes, all right? Thank you all for your patience.
As you're voting, keeping things moving along, just to give you an idea that we do have people positioned. I know this is kind of rudimentary what we're doing here, but in Cochrane, we have Teresa Lork, Cindy Hardy that are helping coordinate there. Dublin, Stephen Swanovic, Eastman, April Daniels, Macon, Charles Matson, Melissa Jordan, and then we have others, I think, assisting here in Macon. And Warner Robins, we have Pella Murphy. So that is how all of this is coming together so that we get, accurate votes and so forth to represent the voting process. I just want to let you know that. While they're tabulating those, we're moving on to our next. Do we have all the votes? I do believe so. Thank you. As you know, last time we met, April the 29th, there was an ad hoc academic assembly committee that was formed. And that committee met over this academic year. And Dr. Melanie Hatch is going to bring an update on the findings of that ad hoc committee at this time.
Good afternoon, everyone. As Troy said, we were charged by President Blake with an ad hoc committee to take a look at the overall purpose and function of academic assembly. And so we had a nice cross-cutting committee from several different departments. We met several times throughout this academic year, had a lot of really great discussions about the mission and what all of the functions of academic assembly. We do have a set of recommendations, one being that we would like to rename academic assembly to university assembly to kind of recognize the fact that this is really an institution-wide committee or a group and has kind of a function that really touches all parts of the institution. And so right now, the ad hoc committee, we've got several motions. We voted on that internally. The next step will be to take these motions to the Executive Committee of Faculty Senate, and then finally to Faculty Senate in general. And then if those two bodies approve it, we'll bring it back to Academic Assembly with all the motions for final approval and changes of the bylaws. But as I said, that kind of the overarching change would be the mission and the purpose of Academic Assembly to broader represent the institution, renamed as University Assembly. And finally, to reinforce that the general purpose of the Assembly is for members of the university to hear reports from the officers of the university, and also in regard to strategic planning and to promote a unifying and morale-building framework for regular discussion. So that will be the new proposed mission of Academic Assembly. Thank you.
Thank you for that report, Dr. Hatch. Our next item, report of the Faculty Senate. We're going to be calling Dr. Javen Frazier. He was chair of the Faculty Senate this past academic year. As he comes forward to bring his report and remarks following that, he's going to be calling each of the respective committees and boards that fall underneath the Faculty Senate for their respective reports. Dr. Frazier.
Thank you, and it's good to see everybody, and thank you to everyone, and good to see, or they can't see everybody on our campuses, but we're glad that you're joining us as well. First, the Faculty Senate report. I'm trying to make this as brief as can be. We've held 7 meetings, and we have a meeting for this academic year, and we have one more meeting tomorrow. We have approved 31 proposals, and amongst these proposals, we have approved modifications to requirements for the admission to the graduate nursing program, allow the substitution of non-major science sequence for students enrolled in the Health Services Administration program, approved a new undergraduate certificate in financial technology, minors in sociology, psychology, and criminal justice. We also allowed students being allowed to declare an undecided major instead of declaring general studies, allowing select juniors and seniors to take graduate classes, with the approval of the dean, and prohibiting Senate and Executive Committee chairs from serving on any other committee, board, or council except when selected as a member of the PT/PTR subcommittee by faculty undergoing PT/PTR review on ad hoc committees or in an ex officio capacity. We also provided feedback regarding proctoring testing needs. That was eventually decided. We came up with a policy for that to deal with, and I know this is an ongoing issue, but we were glad to get that done. The officers included myself, Associate Chair of Biology John Patillo served as Vice Chair. Dr. Lorraine Dubuisson served as Recorder for this past academic year, and Gaston Brower was our parliamentarian. All officers except for Dr. Dubuisson were retained. Dr. Dubuisson decided not to run again for the Senate, and Dr. Kathleen Burt was then elected as Recorder. And that is your Senate report. I also was chair of the IRB, and I want to go ahead and give that report. The IRB, for those of you that don't know, is the Institutional Review Board, and it oversees human subjects research within the MGA community, and our purpose is to review all proposals for research involving human subjects before the research is conducted to determine whether the research plan was adequately addressed. We currently have 13 members, and I am pleased to announce that we also now have a community member that will be joining us next year, Mr. Kyle Barfield of Perry, Georgia. He will be joining us next academic year. Dr. John Patillo was elected as vice chair for the next academic year, or for this current academic year, and will be chair for the next academic year. And Dr. Gaston Brower was elected as parliamentarian. We worked with IT to establish a website, and so that all IRB documents can be found in one location for sure. Definitely for sure. And there's also another location on the shared governments, but we do have our own website now and our own address. Yay, that was great. To have our own email address so that all the documents can go in one space, one place, and they can be examined by the chair and even by the committee members if they so choose, or it'll be easier to forward it to them. The IRB met 3 times face-to-face and numerous times online to discuss and approve proposals. And we approved 24 proposals that covered a variety of topics such as social media privacy concerns, mobile technology security and privacy in the workplace, personality politics and moral foundations, improving lung CT screening program, among others. We have covered several of those. Before I call on other committees and boards to meet, several of representatives couldn't be here, but they sent me their reports. So I want to go ahead and give those before asking others to come up. Sorry, it's a lot of Fraser time, but here we go. The Student Honors Awards and Graduation Committee met one time during the academic year. Their major accomplishment was planning and implementing the honors convocation, and the chair for next academic year will be Jonathan Cannon. So that's Student Honors Awards and Graduation Committee. The Safety Committee met once in the fall and once in the spring, and Paige Crump was elected to chair-elect, and David Vogel was elected as the recorder. One thing that was discussed was campus carry and discussion about how that was proceeding through legislation. And at the time of the report's been written, and even now, it has not been signed into law, so no major changes were recommended by them. There was discussion about locking the doors in the Dublin campus, and it was just deemed that it would be too costly, but campus police are in training to understand the situation there. There also were discussions regarding crosswalks. In Macon, cars were failing to stop the crosswalk between the residence area and the main campus, and exiting the campus at University Parkway is hazardous due to high-speed traffic along Eisenhower Parkway. The issues are awaiting action from Macon-Bibb County, and there were also issues at Warner Robins campus, but they were resolved due to vigilant law enforcement taking care of the problem. So that's from the Safety Committee. The International Programs Review Board had its first meeting October 13th, 2016. The major issues that they just worked on, deliberated on, and designed and improved external study abroad participation forum. They worked on the proposal process and handbook for faculty-led study abroad programs, reviewed and improved the experimental learning program, Not Impact, discussed and amended the program director's handbook, as well as others. And they have ongoing future issues about MGA representation on regional councils, virtual exchanges, promoting international opportunities. And the chair Wanted to thank all members of the board for a job well done during the year under review, especially with Dr. Thompson, the director of the international programs. The chair of the Intercampus Speakers Committee, Dr. Lentz, emailed me saying that they're in a process of determining what their true mission is. And that has been an ongoing dialogue. And so she wanted me to exchange that with you, and mostly that's my own words, but basically that they have nothing at this point to report on. That's fine. Technology Resources Committee, last one. Met to discuss and complete business as requested by the university, and was updating things, especially about one thing included Mr. Roger Dixon as ex officio member. Recommendations, policies needed to be clarified. They also suggested a standardization of student policies online and in e-core classes. The university considered the need for additional computational facilities on campus. Of course, budget is always an issue, and for the university to expand its online and cross-listed courses. On a personal note, I'd like to thank members, all those who have served in the Senate, for all their work and their participation. I do appreciate that. And I do appreciate everyone's work on these committees to get things done, to get policies implemented, to hear from the faculty and try to implement our perspective on how we would like to get things changed and get things influenced where we see that there needs to be. So I'd like to thank all of you. So first committee to report will be the executive.
Hi, my voice sounds a little different today. Okay, some of the main duties of the executive committee that executive committee has carried out during this academic year have been populating the standing committees and boards of the Faculty Senate, reviewing and voting on the proposals submitted by the committee's boards and faculty members, and making revisions to the bylaws of the Faculty Senate. Now, these last two categories are intertwined. The EC has had 8 regular meetings, but has reviewed and voted on a number of items electronically in between meetings. First, the EC finished in the earlier months of last fall the committee and board rosters for this academic year, and the spring has worked on the rosters for the next AY, which will be completed within a week and will be recommended to the president for approval. With his approval, the committees and boards, except the ones such as the Student Affairs Committee and the Student Conduct Board, for which a ratio of 50% faculty and 50% student needs to be maintained, all the other committees and boards will be able to meet once next fall starts. See. So at the same time, it also needs to be added that the EC will work to distribute the committee, board, and council work to faculty members with the goal of achieving fairness and reducing the imbalance of power. Second, the EC has reviewed and approved a number of proposed revisions to the bylaws of the Senate. These revisions range from membership description changes recommended by some of the committees and boards to other policies concerning the shared governance at MGA, initiated by faculty members and the EC itself. Some of these are the addition regarding the voting rights in elections to select members to the Senate, the Executive Committee, and the PTBTR Committee, and also the fair shared governance that Dr. Fraser already mentioned. And let's see, and other proposals from the ad hoc committee of the Academic Assembly on diversity, which are the MGA diversity statement and the formation of a diversity council of the Faculty Senate. Actually, recently, the EC received a revised proposal of the statement and the formation of a diversity council. We approved the revised diversity statement, but we voted not to approve the revised item number 2, and the main reason is that the EC felt strongly against moving the diversity council from the faculty senate to the academic assembly. And then I'm almost done. An item that the EC will continue to work on into the next AY is the voting rights of the ex-official members on the committees, boards, and the councils of the faculty senate. I would like to thank all of the EC members for their work. And Mr. Ed Wallace, last year's EC chair, Dr. Barry Monk, last year's chair of the PTPTR committee, and Dr. Kevin Cantwell, who have helped me and made my job easier. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Chad. I meant to introduce you and didn't forget to. I was going to mention there have been some changes about who's going to represent each of these committees and boards in reporting. So I'll just mention the committee or board name, and you come up and tell whoever you are to everyone so that to introduce. So the next board will be, or excuse me, the committee will be the Academic Personnel Policies Committee.
Good afternoon. The Academic Personnel Policies Committee was charged with reviewing and clarifying the independent study policy on campus. There were different numbers such as 10, 12, and 15 being used by various departments for deciding the compensation of faculty. 12 was the majority number for most departments. Findings indicated that 12 independent studies were needed before the faculty member could be compensated. Because it could take faculty members in some departments many years to complete 12 independent studies, a suggestion and formula were sent to Provost Hatch to ensure more timely payment for work completed. Our second assignment was to review the draft of the graduate school handbook. We approved the suggested changes sent to us and made a few recommendations, but we understand that it is still a work in progress. We met 3 times this year, and the chair-elect is Dr. Charlie Agnew. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now hear from the Faculty Development Committee.
Good afternoon. I'm Steve Stikowski, Chair of the Faculty Development Committee. We met 3 times face-to-face with 1 time scheduled for tomorrow. The 2016-27 budget for research, conference, and speakers was $15,500, and for international travel, it was $5,000. We reviewed 35 eligible applications, and the total money requested was $66,985. And the money awarded was $20,495. So I had to turn $5 back in. I'm sorry. We'll do better next time. But there is a big gap in between money wanted and money that we actually have. So that's something we need to start looking into. The chair-elect for 2017-2018 is Dr. Emmy Cochran Jackson. Thanks.
Next is the Faculty Recognition Committee. Yeah. Okay, that's fine. I don't want to embarrass her if she's not, something happened. I'm sorry. We'll come back to that one. Let's go to the Library Resources Committee.
The Library Resources Committee met twice last year, and I have a brief synopsis. The committee is working on obtaining additional group study spaces for students during the midterm and final sessions. The Graduate Studies librarian has been working with students in the master's program to assist them in their capstone projects. Phase 1 of the Cochrane Library renovations will begin the day after spring semester finals ends and should be finished by the fall semester. These renovations will move the SSC to the main floor of the library and create more study rooms. Phase 2 will be completed later. The next library user survey of the faculty will be conducted this fall. And the new USG-wide integrated library system is in testing and will begin on May 26. Our next chair will be Dr. Lisa Bro. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, the Promotion, Tenure, and Post-Tenure Review Committee.
Hello, I'm Don Brown. I'm the incoming chair for Promotion, Tenure, Post-Tenure Review. John Tromboli is the current chair. The committee met several times this year to oversee the process of tenure and promotion. There were 25 individuals who were reviewed, 1 for tenure only, 7 tenure and promotion to associate professor, 3 for promotion to associate professor, and then 1 for promotion to professor, and 3 for senior lecturer. There were 6 faculty members for post-tenure review, and for the upcoming year, we have 25 faculty members to review. I want to thank the committee for their hard work, Javen Frazier, who served as the recorder, Rebecca Lanning, Dawn Sherry, and Barry Monk. And thanks to all of you who served on the subcommittees. Thanks.
Next, we'll hear from Student Affairs.
Hello, my name is Brooke Miller, and I'm the chair of the Student Affairs Committee. Our job, what we are charged with, is actually deciding the student budget. We did that in November for the 2018 fiscal year, so we have met once. We also approved an adjustment as of today, I believe, is the final. Did we get everybody sent to Amanda? You don't know. I signed everything that she sent me, so it got sent. I will check with her. As soon as I leave the meeting to make sure that she has the proper signatures. We are planning on meeting on September and October, somewhere in there after we find out fall enrollment, so that way we can make any changes. Amanda and her team have been great, so I need to thank them. They've been very good at budgeting. We haven't had to have any major budget cuts the past couple years, which is very fortunate for us. We do have some reserve funds. We're just going to kind of keep those in the reserve, so that way in case fall 2017 enrollment does not we don't have to make any major cuts. And I just want to say thank you to Jennifer, and thank you to Amanda, and thank you to all my committee members. You're doing a great job. Thank you.
Next, we've got the Non-Traditional Programs Review Committee.
Good afternoon. My name is Stan Kessel, and I'm the the chair of the Non-Traditional Programs Review Committee. It's a new committee that the first meeting we had for this committee was called to order by Yonshik Shea of the Executive Committee. And the charges that we were given from Yonsek and Dr. Mary Wern was basically to articulate and define the role of the NTPRC community relative to MGA's fully online programs curricula, competency-based programs, and prior learning assessment for the university. So specifically, the undergraduate and graduate catalog descriptions for the award of prior learning assessments need to be examined, more detailed, more formal guidelines for college level examination programs such as CLEP must be more explicit in the undergraduate and graduate catalogs. Also, recommend action to the provost on matters related to curriculum, course of study, and academic standards for distance education and other alternative models for curriculum delivery and credit reward. Basically, we have met once a month since we started. A few months we've met multiple times. We decided, being that both of these items that we are going to address were pretty comprehensive, we decided to tackle the prior learning assessments initially, and we wanted to write a proposal for PLA policy that would be presented to academic affairs. And once that gets approved, then we'll go ahead and finalize the procedures portion of that next academic year, as well as getting into prior learning assessments, getting into the distance learning, which is another very important issue that we need to address within the university, more standardizing. So our chair-elect going forward for the next academic year is Dr. Sharon Colley. Thank you.
Dr. Sumitra Himunshi was not able to be here due to a previous meeting scheduled at, I think, 3:30. So I'm going to bring her report. Institutional Effectiveness Board. She was the chair this past year. The Institutional Effectiveness Board, IEB, met twice during the year. Under Dr. Mary Wern's guidance, the board reviewed and revised the MGA Comprehensive Program Review Instrument, commonly known as CPRJ, or I rather, for tighter alignment to the new USG metrics released fall 2016. This revised MGA CPR metric was employed to review 9 programs during spring of 2017. The board is currently considering additional revisions to the evaluation instrument in order to address both USG criteria, as well as provide a process for documenting faculty quality and nuances unique to specific MGA programs. The IAB takes this opportunity to thank Dr. Mary Wern for her leadership and looks forward to working under the supervision of Dr. Michael Gibbons in academic year 2017-2018.
Five more. So we have the Strategic Planning Committee.
Hello, I'm Benita Muth, and the Strategic Planning Board met to review progress on the Middle Georgia State University Strategic Plan, and the board began conversation at this meeting about its composition, including the benefit of adding more faculty members, the voting status of ex officio members, and its evolving purpose. The discussion of these issues is ongoing, and I'd like to thank everyone who worked with the board this year. Thank you.
Next, we have the Intercollegiate Athletics Board.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Brannon. I'm not on this board, but I'm standing in for James Hagler, who apparently is in charge of this board. His highlights that this committee has for this year is that they discussed new volleyball and cross-country marketing and recruitment efforts. They discussed a single source vendor, and that single source vendor was decided upon by the coaches as a direction to pursue, leading to an RFP that was completed in April of 2017 for one vendor for all of our athletic apparel. And the third point was the committee discussed the NAIA Champions of Character program as part of the university strategic plan and established working relationships with members of the committee from outside of the athletic department. That's the report.
Next, we have the Student Conduct Board. On behalf of Lowell Hinchy, who served as chair this past year, John Hall will be the chair for the Student Conduct Board in the coming year, and Sandy Little Herring served as the recorder. The Student Conduct Board is a little bit different in that we typically only meet once a year because we have 30 members, 10 faculty, 10 staff, and 10 students. But a meeting was held on Friday, November the 11th, 2016 on the Warner Robins campus. This was a meeting and training session for the members. They received training related to the various aspects of the student conduct process, including the purpose and mission of the Student Conduct Board, policy and procedural review, ethics and liability, and discussion related to various scenarios. Subcommittee was appointed to review the Student Code of Conduct and met on April the 6th, 2017, again on the Warner Robins campus to discuss changes and revisions. However, with legislation still pending that could affect the Student Code of Conduct and all of us, the Conduct Board will meet again to make any recommendations based on guidance from the system office. As of Tuesday, and trust me, these numbers probably are changing as I speak, there were 316 cases reported through the student conduct process. 60 of those were academic infractions and 262 were behavioral. 4 cases were referred to the assessment and care team for review and response. Of the 312 reported cases involving infractions, 27 of those were still pending. That number has changed. However, 285 students have accepted responsibility, waiving their hearing and appeal rights. And that is due largely to the partnership between my office and all of you as my academic colleagues, because you have handled a lot of those on my behalf, and I am truly appreciative of that. Final figures related to student conduct will be posted at the end of June or 1st of July and will be shared with the campus community. Next, Student Media Advisory. Nope. Okay. Academic Affairs. Come on down. Come on.
Hi, I'm Shane Trayers. I'm the current chair of the Academic Affairs Board. This year, Sabrina Wenger is the recorder. The board met 8 times, 4 per each semester. So basically once a month during the semester. At my count, and my math could be slightly wrong, we reviewed 219 proposals. I'm not going to go through 219 proposals, but if you're interested, you can see all the proposals on the shared governance under academic affairs proposals as well. So if you want to go look at 219 of them, you can. The new chair for the upcoming year will be Stephen Taylor, and I just want to say thank you to the board for their hard work.
Our next report comes from the area of graduate studies. Dr. Kevin Campbell, Dean, and Loretta Clayton, Associate Dean, are away at a conference today and not able to be here. Dr. Randy Spade, Chair of the Graduate Studies Council, will bring that report.
Very quickly, as we finish this up, the Graduate Studies Council met 7 times this academic year. We formulate recommendations for graduate admissions and graduate course registration policies. We generated some robust curriculum and assessment rubrics for reviewing proposed graduate courses. We developed guidelines for awarding graduate student assistantships, which have been awarded. And we recommend the establishment of a graduate student advisory council, which is now in effect and has a chair. A graduate student handbook is currently in development. Another draft of a graduate faculty handbook was approved by council members in the fall and submitted to the Dean's Council and Academic Personnel Policies Committee for review. I'm the chair-elect for next year with no hope of parole, and I thank the council members, some of whom are here today, for their hard work, their persistence and determination to move this forward. We'll have 16 members next year on the council. We'll continue on the handbook, and we'll look at additional policy issues that we recommend changes to the academic affairs and the executive council and the provost. Thank you.
There's one last one, the Student Media Advisory Board report. Just got that via email, or I just found it on my email, one way or the other. So the board met twice, once in the fall and once in the spring. They officially appointed the editors and coordinators of the various student media for 2016 and 17, introduced the editor candidates for 2017 and 18, and began the process of standardizing the procedures, deadlines, and position description for all student media positions. Review the student media budgets, the inability to get night television included back in the student activities fee allocation, and how the Department of Media, Culture, and the Arts would seek to make up the shortfall. Also approved the adjustment of the statement production schedule to fit the resulting budget, explored options to bring student media to all campuses, and discuss strategies for better marketing student media as a learning opportunity campus resource, including working more closely with the Office of Marketing and Communications and getting student media more prominently featured in the current redesign of the website. And that's the report from Dr. David Sidemore, Chair, and the designee for Dean Williams.
Our next report comes from the Office of the President. So Dr. Blake, will you come up and give the report?
Good afternoon, colleagues, faculty and staff. Thank you, and I would like to extend my good wishes to those of you who are attending remotely as well. We're coming to the end of a very hectic, busy year. The year is bookended, at this time with Academic Assembly, which itself is going through some very important conversations about its role and how it can evolve to represent shared governance across the institution. And then we will convene again on August the 4th at Convocation, where we will have a high-level look at the institution as a whole and anticipate the year going ahead. So my brief remarks kind of look back, but also look forward a bit to the past year and also where we can see the land lying in the coming year and what that poses for us. First of all, I'd like to extend a thank you. This has been a year of much work across the university, and we've heard a lot of the work today of the committees, and my respect and appreciation. The university needs to have leadership in terms of aligning shared governance with effective management, and without either, we can't do our work. And as we build the university at the completion of its second year, only as a university, still with an evolving mission as defined by the university system, these are times where many minds are better than one or two. And I thank you for the mindfulness and the energy that you're putting in to helping shape the future and address the challenges that we find as the newest university in Georgia. You heard from the registrar earlier, we have a lot to celebrate in the next week. We have 1,082 students graduating. Typical metrics would imply that of those 1,000 or so, about 850 of them will continue to build their careers and their livelihoods here in the region, so they're directly impacting Middle Georgia. That is a tremendous achievement. I think Brenda said it's like a 2%, 3% increase on last year. The university system has made it clear we are measured in success by complete college Georgia, which means completing college. These 1,082 students are an example of the success that we can share that they have completed their college. And so we, unlike most businesses, certainly unlike your phone plan, are keen on people eventually leaving here. We need to lose our relationships in a way and hope they go and do great things with the Middle Georgia State credential. The Chancellor is new. As you know, Dr. Steve Wrigley has become our new Chancellor, and his mission unequivocally, and he's been clear with the presidents, he's taken us away twice and given us a very clear mandate and a very clear direction. And with it, actually, a Board of Regents employee badge as well, just in case we weren't sure. But with that, he has identified his priorities. His priorities are going to stay Complete College Georgia with robust expectations and measurement of institutional performance. Secondly, he's going to ensure that our relationship with the legislators and with the General Assembly is as strong as it can be. He feels that higher education is under the spotlight in a way that it has not been. We do not know yet where Governor Deal whether he will sign certain bills, but for example, the Campus Carry Bill is an example of what Dr. Wrigley sees as an accountability that we have, and that we indeed need to be responsive to and be able to manage. And finally, he's established 3 committees. He's established 3 working groups, and he's putting a lot of emphasis on that. One of them is on the future vision of the university system. One of them is updating policies so that our policies do not appear to be lagging behind the realities of Georgia, the state of Georgia, as it currently needs to demonstrate the efficacy of public higher education. The third one he's asked me to be a member of, and that is on administrative efficiency, nicknamed the Bloat Committee. There's a tremendous sense that amongst certain schools, there is a large amount of administrative expenditure. I've said to the Chancellor, Middle Georgia State has gone through consolidation, has the lowest tuition rate, the smallest financial arrangement, and has managed to operate across 5 different campuses and online at a time where I think we demonstrate actually some efficiency, to which he said, that's why you're on the committee. So I think we're there not to be punished, but to be praised. At least I hope that's how it will go. But he's asked me to join that. We start our work next week. So I will be on that, and I will report back to I don't get the chance to talk to Academic Assembly very often. As it evolves to University Assembly, hopefully, I hope that may be the case. But I also do want to say the Faculty Senate receives these updates from me, and I appreciate having the opportunity to do that. So what can we say of the coming year? FY18 is nearly upon us. That's financial year 18, July the 1st. Last week, the senior team and I were down at the Board of Regents meeting, and we received the results of our presentations and requests and proposals for finances for the coming year. Now, I'm pleased to report to you some good news. We have, for the first in 5 years, had an increase in our state appropriations as opposed to a decrease in our state appropriations. We have achieved that collectively. And what I mean by that is we've achieved that because we did begin quite dramatically to reverse an enrollment situation, to slow down a decline. And as you know, our state appropriations are based on an enrollment formula, and the decline in enrollment has meant cut, and cut, literally 4 years of cuts, maybe 5. Nancy said to me this morning she thinks it's 5 years if we look back. This past year, we began to stabilize enrollment. You remember at convocation, I challenged the community to see if we could register students, and we did that. It was an extraordinary 3-week period. We then had a disappointment in spring. We dropped again, more than we thought we would. But the signs are that we're working hard for summer and for the fall. And what that enrollment I can't think of the word, it's not a plateau because it's the other way around, it's a sort of bottoming out. What that has meant is the system has been able to preserve our funding level. And then last week we learned something as well. In response to our repeated requests that now we are in a different sector, we're in the state university sector, we have been given additional state appropriations. Nancy Stroud will talk more about that in the coming weeks, what that means. It doesn't mean we're flush with money. What it means is we're not cutting. We're not cutting at this point. We're actually got some money that we're giving back to different divisions to be able to do some creative things. You heard earlier about the gap between faculty development requests and faculty development ability to pay to meet those requests. I'm hoping as we go forward that will eventually become a thing that we can see was of the past and not a present reality. So these are the areas that particularly I want to focus on briefly. We've been given recognition as a state university of a sector allowance, and Faculty Senate's heard this, but I don't think everyone yet on campus has heard it. We also, 2 months ago, were voted on that we're one of 4 institutions with a blended mission, university with an access function. University with an access function, meaning like Georgia State, like Albany State, and like University of North Georgia. We have university students and we have students who would typically not get into university. Our job is to help them succeed and complete College Georgia. We're one of 4. They are going to make sure that we do not find ourselves with a mission that we can't fulfill. So we had good news last week about our state appropriations. We also know that the aviation funding, and I want to stress this, aviation funding does not mean that the aviation students or the aviation faculty or the School of Aviation has some special funding source. All it means is that new equipment in aviation will be regularly fed into the school because the state recognizes that we are the only 4-year public school of aviation. So we have had success. We hope the governor will sign the budget so we get $2.8 million for new aviation equipment in the coming year. We also heard that there will be a tuition increase for the system of 2%. I'm surprised at that, actually. I thought it was going to be 0%. For a long while, I thought we would not get a tuition increase, but we got 2%. And that 2% means that our tuition goes up to $111 a credit hour. Now, why is that significant? It means that well, it's a little bit more in terms of tuition, but what we're still behind is the rest of the sector that get over $170 a credit hour. Just do the math. There's a lot more money going into Clayton State than there is in Middle Georgia State. And I recognize that, and I recognize the stress you're under, and I recognize when you're doing searches, people say, we have to compete. We do have to compete, but our metrics are also real, and our dollars are fixed at $111 a credit hour for next year. But that's better than where it was, which was $108 a credit hour. So for my, and then of course, there's the 2% compensation that is being given from the state. And I do want to say to faculty and staff, that compensation is not funded from Atlanta. It is only partly funded from Atlanta. They only fund about 2/3 to 3/4 of it. The rest is funded internally, and Middle Georgia State has made the decision on recommendation from the Chief Financial Officer that we will go ahead and we will fully fund that 2%, but we're finding the rest of that internally. That does not come, it's a little bit of an unfunded mandate we get from the legislature when they come up with that. So the answer going forward is that we're in a better position financially. Enrollment is critical. We need to make sure that our enrollment for the fall looks like the enrollment last fall. If we can be better, that would be much better. But what is enrollment? Enrollment is crudely measured under a formula of credit count production. So credit counts do count. However, you and I know that enrollment is getting the right students in the right places and the right programs aligned. That's the only real clue to it, is actually aligning people, places, and programs. So I ask you to work with your divisions, your departments, with your colleagues to find that alignment, that it's essential that we know how we can maximize that. Eventually that gets turned into credit count hours, but it really is from recruitment right through graduation, that story that we follow. And I thank you that we've been doing that in a way that's more sophisticated, certainly, than when we found 4 years ago that we were a single institution. We're getting there. But it does become important for the strategic plan next year, and it becomes very important for an enrollment plan next year, that alignment is thought through at the next step. Finally, last week I received the recommendations of the faculty and the staff working groups. You probably may not remember, but at Convocation last year, I shared some data based on the Campus Climate Survey. And that Campus Climate Survey said there were some issues that faculty and staff felt were not being addressed, recognized, and seriously thought about by the senior leadership, the administration, and communications. So we've done some work, and I'm very grateful that the chairs of the faculty working group and the staff working group convened, pulled the groups together. Last week, I was fortunate enough to have that presented. On Monday, the cabinet will be receiving presentations from those groups, and then I will bring those findings back to convocation about where do we go from here. Meanwhile, I urge you please to come and tell me how we can do that. When I have office hours, it can feel very lonely if no one comes in, so I get up and walk around. But if you do have ideas, come and share them. Sometimes I will say in office hours, please share those with your colleagues. They're going to get more traction than I will. Sometimes I go back and I say, I just heard one of the best ideas I've heard in a long while. So I urge you to keep thinking of ways we can build that bridge of communication and intentionality behind the institution. And finally, we're nearly at summer. It doesn't feel like it with the rain out there. Maybe it does feel like it with the rain out there. But I do wish you, many of you will be working through the summer, doing additional summer school, and we still have, I believe, a few weeks that we can register. So we're narrowing that gap on last year's summer. Please encourage your students. Please tell them we're going to be also having, of course, students we want back in the fall. Please have them come back in the fall, help us with that. And I do wish you, though, a great deal of time for peace, recreation, and recreation after a very busy, successful, and hectic year. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you for those remarks, Dr. Blake. At this time, we're going to be going to hear reports from officers of the university. And first up, Dr. Melanie Hatch, our provost, would you come forward with your report?
Well, I'm very pleased to give the report of academic affairs and to talk about some of the highlights that we've accomplished over this last year. We've been quite busy as a division. First, we graduated 333 students last December, which included the first 10 graduate students from the Masters of Information Technology. We will be expecting to graduate 20 more graduate students in IT this spring and our first cohort of graduate students from the nursing program this summer. Of the students that we graduated in December, 120 of those graduated with experiential learning credentials. And we had a very pleasant surprise in the fact that we've already had students exceeding the gold level of distinction for the Knowledge at Work program. And now we've actually had to propose a platinum level to keep up with all the good work that our students are doing. We had 2 additional master's programs approved by SAC-COC this year. Our Master of Science in Management and our Master of Arts in Teaching have both received approval from our accrediting body and are slated to officially start this summer. So we've already started our recruiting efforts and we have students in the pipeline, and we'll have our first set of graduate students in those programs starting in the summer. We also had to submit a monitoring report to SAC-COC. We did that earlier this month, and we will be expecting to hear their comments back to us in June. Assuming that everything goes well, the good news is we can stop doing all that assessment every semester, and we will be able to move to an annual assessment of learning cycle. Some of the great things that we've been doing on the retention side, this is part of those Complete College Georgia metrics that President Blake has mentioned. We have seen a 2.13 increase in our overall institutional retention since fall of 2011. We've seen a 3% increase for full-time students and an 8.4 increase in fall-to-fall retention for part-time students. And finally, a 7.42 increase in retention for learning support students. So that's just really wonderful news, and we'll be getting the latest data on our retention information in May. We've had 130 faculty and staff participate in Green Zone training through our Office of Veterans and Military Services. And since we've officially opened that office, we've served 614 military-connected students. We'll be graduating a cohort of 20 academy students with their associate degrees next month. And at this point in time, they have been awarded over $1 million in scholarship monies to continue their education and earn their bachelor's degrees. The Office of Institutional Research has installed a new data warehouse, which is being populated as we speak with information, and will start giving us real-time information on student performance, and we'll be moving to a really nice forecasting methodology for student success once we have enough data to start having trend analysis. We've been participating, we're one of 10 USG institutions that have been participating in the Gateway to Completion project. And I'm pleased to announce, we're really ahead of the game in terms of some of the other institutions. We've already gone through one cycle of redevelopment of 2 of our Gateway courses as defined by the number of students that are DWF rates in those classes. We've redesigned them with an eye towards better student success and having those students no longer serve as gateway issues. And we'll have data at the end of this semester in terms of the impact that we've seen on our DWF rates. In terms of what's coming up in the future, we have the latest update of the strategic plan is on the website. And if you haven't seen it, at mga.edu/strategic plan. And we'll be pulling together some folks to start our discussions on what our priorities will be for next year as we complete the 3-year strategic plan. In some ways, those priorities will be fixed because it'll basically be everything that we haven't finished up to this point. But I'm really pleased that we have made a lot of progress this year in closing out a number of our initiatives. We will have 26 students going to the Dominican Republic next month on an impact travel trip. This is where students through the Fathom Cruise Lines take a cruise down there, and then once they're there, they help young people learn English through conversational ESL. They'll be working on a water filtration system for the local inhabitants. They will be working on reforestation, or perhaps also working in a chocolate cooperative. And we also have 29 students doing study abroad. They'll be traveling to Europe. And finally, we have 1 student and 1 faculty member who will be visiting us from Northampton University on an exchange program that we've set up. And of course, finally, the quest for new programs continues. We have proposals for respiratory therapy and music in the pipeline, and we'll be looking at additional programs, especially at the graduate level, for next year. And finally, a couple of personnel items. I'm pleased to announce that we completed successfully 2 dean searches. Dr. Kenneth Holt from Austin Peay University will be joining us on 1 June as our new Dean of Business. And Dr. Tara Underwood from Columbus State will be joining us on 1 July from Columbus State. So that's my report for academic affairs, and thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Hatch. At this time, I'll ask Ms. Nancy Stroud if she'll come forward, our Executive Vice President for Finance and Operations, to bring her report.
Good afternoon. Just got 2 or 3 minor things to talk about the budget. And one reminder, just a reminder that the faculty pay date for May is Wednesday, May 31st. That's a change this year. We've communicated it out, but I just want to be sure everybody remembers that. The last couple of years, we've been working on making the budget process a more transparent, more collaborative process. And I just want to call your attention to one of the things that we have done, and that is the last couple of months we've put a budget blog or a budget update, whatever you want to call it, out on the Inside MGA. We published 2. We published 1 in March and then 1 about 2 weeks ago. And if you've not read the one from 2 weeks ago, I would encourage you to go out to the Inside MGA, just type in budget, and that's the first thing that'll pop up. It's called Comparing MGA to Our USG Peers, and it's just a lot of good information in there, whether you just want to kind of read through it and, we point out a few different comparisons, or you can really dig down into a lot of the data that we put in there and make your own comparisons. But anyway, I would encourage you to go out and read through that if you're interested in learning more about how we spend our money and how we compare to other USG, to our peers. And then there will be another one in early June on the FY18 budget. I will go into more detail about the budget at that time. Just a word on the current year budget. As President Blake said, this year we had a $1.9 million cut in state appropriations, and that was on top of $3.4 million last year. you know, we've weathered that. We're almost to the end of this year. We're surviving, and there will be a little bit of year-end spending money. So this year, you know, every year everyone sends in their year-end request, and so this year we've compiled all the year-end requests, and we're going to put those out to be more transparent. We're putting those year-end requests out on the Budget Services website, so you can go out there and see what people are asking for, and we will update those through the end of July, showing what we did with year-end money that's kind of left over, where we put that money. FY18 budget. As Dr. Blake mentioned, several pieces of good news. This first time in several years with no cut in state allocations. We actually, for the first time in at least 5 years, we got $296,000 in formula funding for enrollment. This is what they have been cutting us year after year after year on, and this time they actually gave us almost $300,000 in formula enrollment funding. So that was a very good thing. But even better than that is what I consider the vote of confidence that we got from the USG with this $1.2 million in support of the sector change. That was big news for us. They did not fund the consolidation. They did not fund the sector change. And now all of a sudden they have given us some money for that. So I really think that's a vote of confidence from them. And about half of that 1.2 million will go towards kind of digging us out of the hole that we have kind of gotten into over the last couple of years. We'll also use that money to pay for that 25% of the salary increases that the USG doesn't pay for. But the rest of it, about $650,000, was allocated out to the VPs to use for either new positions or other operating needs. The provost office received 56% of this new money, and then the other VPs received the remainder. The tuition increase of 2%, I want to mention that the way our tuition is done, it's, you know, the 108 plus, if it's online, it's plus $60. So our online tuition is 168. This year, the USG has decided that we will not increase online tuition rate. So what that means is it's about 25 to 30% of our classes are online. So in effect, those will not have a tuition increase. So only about 70% of our courses will actually have an increase. So while we thought we were going to get over $400,000 in new funding from the tuition increase, it's more around 200, 240, something like that. So just so you understand that. And the merit salary increase of 2%, that was better than what we were expecting. So, and the merit increases cost us around $800,000, and we get about 75% of that from the state. So that remaining $200,000 is one of the things that we are using that 1.2 million to support those raises. But I will say that all in all, FY18 is shaping up to be the most stable budget that we have had in at least 5 years. So it is good news, and we hope we're headed in the right directions. I'll be happy to answer questions at any time. If you ever have questions about the budget or anything, just shoot me an email or stop me in the hall or whatever, and I'll be happy to answer them. Thank you.
Our next report comes from Dr. Jennifer Brannon, Vice President for Student Affairs, as she comes forward.
Hi again. All is well in student affairs, where our mission is to educate, engage, and develop our students. In our student engagement and student life department, Dr. Corey Guyton implemented our new student programming model. We are focusing, where we're moved to more an intentional model of programming, where we're focusing on wellness, service learning, life skills, community building, diversity, and scholarship. So it's a great direction that we're taking in student life. He and Dr. Moffitt and Janae Baycoat also implemented and hosted our first student leadership conference. We are going to have that every year. It was a great event if any of you stopped by and saw it. Our students that participated had a fantastic time. And then we have our new university caliber SGA constitution. So SGA is all set now to move on, move up, and move further along, and we're excited about that. They had a lot of work ahead of them this year, and we had a great group of people getting that together. In Residence Life, we had a 90% occupation rate, and this is huge. Much like our president says, not this one, but Trump. It was huge. 3 years ago, we were at 62%, and we're at 90% now. So we had big success in Residence Life. We added a little bit of extra housing in Macon for this upcoming fall. Hope to have some permanent housing in a couple years here on the Macon campus to increase the residential population here in Macon. And we have this great learning community in the residence halls called Volunteer Nights, and they engage in a lot of community service events throughout the year and participated in the alternative spring break in New Orleans this year. So we've got a lot of great things going on in Residence Life. As the students move out, they'll move back in, and we'll do it all again. Recreation and wellness news, both of our wellness centers, in the one here in Cochran, or the one here we're in Macon, and the one in Cochran, they average about 400 people every day that go into each of those centers. So they're used, and we've got people getting healthy. Our club sports, our club football team, which is the last couple of years have been very, very successful. We were successful again. We were runners up in the national competition, so we were excited about that. We were hoping for #1, but we'll settle for #2 because that's still a pretty big deal. And we got lots of students engaged in lots of intramural teams, outdoor recreation trips, and group fitness classes. So we've got lots of people participating in rec and wellness. Orientation season is about to kick off. Actually, we have, I think there's a summer orientation for summer semester going on right now on the Cochran campus. But we have probably 10 orientations this summer over 10 weeks on 5 campuses. So at some point you'll see new students this summer with their families coming here to get ready for fall. So make sure you greet them and tell them to register. Our health clinics are providing healthcare here in Macon and in Cochran, and they're kind of having mobile units going to the other 3 campuses. They also do a lot of promotional health promotion events on all 5 campuses. So we're excited to have that up and running finally, and our students are taking advantage of it as well. Our counseling and disability services, I don't know if you know, we have between the 2, there's 4 people total to take care of all of the counseling and disability needs of our students. And so those folks work tirelessly to make sure all of our students are able to have a successful college experience. And they participate in outreach programming as well on all 5 campuses. If you're unaware of what's happening in career services, I suspect you've been locked in your office all semester, or you're stuck under something heavy, because Dr. Moffitt has been going nuts this year. We've got tons of career fairs and recruitment events. She's got all kinds of community employers coming to recruit our students to have jobs, and lots of campus development programs for students. It's been a fantastic year in career services, and I look forward to seeing what else she can do. She's kind of pretty much brought our career services up to a whole different level, and we're excited about that. She also collaborated with the School of Education to open the clothes closet, professional clothes closet, just a couple weeks ago. So our students have opportunity to gain some very inexpensive, nice professional clothes that they can take on interviews with them. Student conduct, you heard that report. Dr. Stewart works tirelessly, or tirefully. He works really hard on helping our students understand and educate them on how they need to act academically and as a regular human being. So I appreciate all the very hard work that he does for us. Athletics has had a successful year as well. Our teams are showing lots of success on and off the field. We, like I said earlier in the other report, we successfully started volleyball and cross country here on the Macon campus this year. Our tennis teams, both men's and women, play here in Macon. Next year they will live and play here in Macon. So we'll have 4 teams on the Macon campus. The other teams are still on the Cochran campus. We have 182 student athletes this year with a combined grade point average as a fall semester of a 2.87. In fall semester, we had 55 of our student athletes on the Dean's or President's Scholar list. Our men's and women's tennis, cross country, women's soccer, and softball all have team GPAs of over 3.0. So we've got some smarties on the in your classes that are also on the field and managing athletics and academics. We have a new athletic director that'll start June 1st. His name's Chip Smith. He's coming from UNC Charlotte. We're very excited about having him come. And the Champions of Character program that we talked about in the last meeting, we're shooting for a 5-star status with the Champions of Character program. And assuming nothing goes sour in the next couple weeks, we will probably make that that designation, and we're excited about that. Diversity, inclusion, equity, and Title IX. We hired our director for that. Thank goodness on this past August 1st. And Janae Baycoat has been busy straight out of the gate and throughout the year training students and talking to people about students, faculty, and staff about Title IX issues and issues of diversity and inclusion. I think about a month in from hiring her, she was named co-chair of the Ad Hoc Committee of Diversity, which she worked with Sabrina Wagner for that. And as Dr. Che talked about earlier, that committee worked very hard to come up with recommendations for an institutional diversity statement, the creation of a diversity council of the Faculty Senate, and approved other or provided other recommendations for us as an institution to consider going forward. More of the details will be shared after Faculty Senate tomorrow. But I'd like to publicly thank Janae and Sabrina and the entire ad hoc committee. They worked really hard fall semester to get this together. And it was a very diverse and inclusive group of people that came together, faculty, staff, and students to do this work. And so I'm very grateful for their hard work. And that concludes my report. Y'all have a great day.
I need the kind of energy she has. I don't think I have that kind of energy. The whole time I was sitting there, I said, she has quite a bit of energy, Jennifer. Mr. Albert Abrams, Chief of Staff, he'll be our next presenter, giving his report for his area.
Okay. I realize that we're coming to the end of a long meeting, so I'm going to make my remarks brief. But I was planning on reporting on the legislative session, but a lot of that has been addressed already. Dr. Blake mentioned campus carry. Dr. Frazier mentioned campus carry. Well, it passed both houses. It's awaiting the governor's signature. The governor has 3 options. He can sign it, he can veto it, or he can do a pocket veto, which means, well, he can just not sign it and it automatically becomes a law. So he has 45 days from the end of the session. So that is coming around pretty quickly. The president also mentioned the $2.8 million that was included in this year's budget for our continued aviation expansion. What's significant is that that $2.8 million was included in the governor's requested budget to the Georgia General Assembly, which means it's almost become institutionalized. So the governor recommends, whatever the governor recommends, the governor tends to get. So we hope that that relationship or that will continue going forward. Now, basic purpose here this afternoon is to make you aware of a unique opportunity that the university has over the course of next fall. There are currently 28 institutions within the University System of Georgia. Now, remember that. There are a couple of consolidations going on, so that number is going to be reduced to 2. Well, going to be reduced by 2 to 26 institutions within the University System of Georgia. If we go to 2, we're going to be one of them. All right, let's just get that. We went through the first round, we can handle it, but no, that will end up being 26. The Board of Regents, our governing body, holds 2 on-campus meetings per year. That means they meet on a campus, away from Atlanta, 2 a year. 26 institutions. On October 10th and 11th, Middle Georgia State University will host a meeting of the Board of Regents of the University System of Georgia on the Macon campus. It's quite an undertaking. We'll have anywhere from 150 to 250 guests for that event. It's an official meeting of the board. But in addition to meeting, It'll be an opportunity for this institution to showcase the campus, more importantly, the programs of the institution and our students. So we're going to be working hard over the course of the next months to plan for that visit. Dr. Blake and I spoke briefly about it this morning. It's a unique opportunity, one that hopefully won't come along for another good 10 years because it's a lot of work. And it's going to create some inconvenience. But we hope that as you think about planning your year, that you won't plan any significant meetings, events around that time period. The PSC is going to be booked solid. We may be using other campus resources. So please kind of block out October 10th. In fact, I would really block out October 9th, 10th, and 11th because there's going to be a lot of movement around campus. I know we're coming to the end, so if anybody have additional questions about the session or about the upcoming visit by the Board of Regents, please feel free to just run me down and catch me. Thank you.
At this time, Ms. Frances Marine Davis, our University Council and Campus Affairs, would you come forward and give your report?
I had a minute to dry off. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Frances Davis. If I haven't met you in person before, perhaps we've exchanged an email. And as Dr. Sullivan said, I wear two hats here at the university. One is as your attorney. And I don't mean your personal attorney, like you're having a fight with your neighbor and you want to know what your rights are. I mean, my job is basically to make sure that what you do every day is in compliance with state, federal, and any other regulations that apply to us as a state university. But also, I think a lot of attorneys have a reputation for being the no person. I sort of pride myself on trying to get to yes. So if you have ideas and you're trying to figure out, are we able to do this? I'm always at your disposal. I'd just like to mention a few things that have happened over the course of this past year, both with respect to legal affairs and then the other hat I wear, we call campus affairs. And for those of you that are phoning in from other campuses, all of you know Pella Murphy and Warner Robins, Henry Whitfield and both Cochrane. Oh, you need to be on the microphone. Sorry about that. I thought my voice would carry. Henry Whitfield and Cochrane and in Eastman, as well as Leanne Tribble in Dublin, are sort of your help in making sure that if you need any resources or if you have ideas to make sure that the university is serving the needs of those communities, that we're here to try to help make that happen. And this year, we've also had the opportunity to work closely with Martin Keyhays in the School of Aviation, given our plans to actually have a statewide presence when it comes to that unique program. But on the legal affairs front, just a couple of highlights. One of the things that we've been working on over the past couple of years, and particularly as we were preparing to become a university, and since we've become one, is updating our policies. You heard Dr. Blake talk about the fact that the university system recognizes the need to look at policies. A lot of times the position we find ourselves in is that there's some level of vagueness in the policy that exists at a system level, and we have to take that and personalize it for the needs of our campus. And our needs end up being unique a lot of the time by virtue of our footprint. So I appreciate all of the help that I've gotten in trying to update our policy manual. Over the past year alone, we've had 11 policies that we have either updated or drafted from scratch. And a lot of work has gone into that. We have several committees and working groups that currently exist under a University Compliance Commission, which I'm hoping will work closely, if not become a part of University Assembly. But among those groups are the Intellectual Property Committee, Privacy and Records Working Group, and the Minors on Campus Working Group, which has done a lot of work over the past year, not only because Move On When Ready enrollment has increased significantly, but because we are hosting minors on our campuses, particularly coming up over the coming months over the summer in summer camps. And I just want to mention something to you that I think says a lot about where we've come as an institution. Every year, the Telegraph puts out an article about the camps that are available around the region. And this year's feature on that had 51 summer camps listed. 11 of those are at Middle Georgia State University. They're in Macon, they're in Cochrane, they're in Eastman. They run the gamut from specialized camps like Sky Camp to Junior Knights Camp to athletics programs. But we also are hosting other organizations that do things for youth in the summer. So we have a real opportunity there for young people to come here. And I don't know if you remember summer camp as a kid, but the impression they might get of this place might pay dividends in enrollment years down the road. In addition to those groups, we've done a lot of work this year related to intellectual property. As I mentioned, intellectual property was one of the policies that we put in place. But we've also started to work to get our brand, our identity as an institution trademarked. And what that will mean eventually is that we will license those marks and hopefully bring some revenue into the university. But we've also tried to educate our community. Over the course of the past couple of months, I had the opportunity to go to on all 5 campuses and talk about Copyright and Teach Act, which affect our faculty's lives day in and day out as we are disseminators of oftentimes other people's ideas. In addition to sort of the policy and compliance side, Legal Affairs also offers advice. And so over the past year, I've reviewed 27 agreements, and I appreciate the patience that people show when they ask me to look over an MOU and it takes a couple of months to get an answer. Oftentimes, it's the first time I'm seeing an issue, and so I sort of have to reach out to colleagues across the system and see what works best. We also have a duty as a public institution to respond to open records requests. So over the course of the past year, we've responded to 60 of them. And all of those have to be turned around in 3 business days. So we've been working on that. And then in addition to that, there are legal matters that come up. And I always tell people that it's a really interesting thing to be in higher ed law because it could be anything from an employment issue to an immigration issue to personal injury litigation. And luckily, I don't have to litigate anything. We have the AG for that. But I do appreciate the promptness with which people respond when a legal matter comes up. And so now turning to the other hat that I wear on campus affairs side, there's 3 things that the campus directors really play a key role in. One is ensuring that we have good service to students. And that's both prospective students and visitors that come onto campus, but current students. They deal also with events. And finally, they deal with outreach. So with respect to service to students, we took on a couple of projects this year. One of the things that we did was we had gotten some questions from students about the food options available on commuter campuses. And so we engaged our students, asking what they needed, and we worked with Sodexo and tried to have more grab-and-go options available for them. We had a naming contest, and the students called our grab-and-go options Knights Express. We've also started to put together plans for how we will make services more accessible to students in Warner Robins when that new building comes online next year. And we've made some minor changes in Dublin, again, with an eye toward making sure that where things are located on each of our campuses makes sense for the students that we serve. And then the other thing that we did this year, which falls into that service piece, is we had the responsibility for launching the Georgia Vector Center. Now, I know most of you have probably heard, or if you haven't, you'll hear now that the Vector Center is going to transition to the technical college system. That makes a lot of sense, given the demand for technical system classes that they're getting from veterans. But we can all be proud of the work that we did to get that center launched in Warner Robins. They've been serving about 400 veterans and military family members per week. And they've referred at least 80 students to Middle Georgia State University. These are veterans that are interested in receiving either a baccalaureate or a graduate degree. On the events front, we have, and this is not counting Macon, just out in the region, we have hosted more than 150 events over the course of the past year, bringing approximately 3,400 visitors to our campuses. And on that front, we want to have some consistency there. So we worked as a team with others in auxiliary services and in the conference center to come up with a new process for outside parties who want to have events on our campuses. And that'll be effective starting Monday. And then lastly, I want to talk about outreach. Our campus directors are out in the community a lot. We are actually, by my count, they have memberships in about 27 different community organizations across the region. And one of the things that we want to focus on, and we have started to focus on, but we want to do more with more intentionality, is making sure that it's not just the campus affairs team going out into the community, but that we are really a point of contact by which we can get our faculty and our students and our staff engaged in our community, because there's no better way to tell our story than for people to meet the people who work here and the students who go to school here. And so that's on the outreach front. We also worked this year on putting out the first annual report for the Office of the President. You've probably seen an increase in the President's blog post that we help facilitate as well. And then lastly, I'll mention the President's Torch Society, which I think some of you have probably met some of the members. I've gotten recommendations for Torch members from many of you. They've put in at least 400 hours into service to the campus and community over the course of the past year. And the group has grown from a dozen students to now 26 students who really are interested in building this institution and in engaging it with the community. And I couldn't be more proud of them. Not only do they help with things like graduation, but just yesterday we had one of our Torch members submit a proposal for a Knight Foundation Emerging Cities Fellowship, where the idea is for this university, led by students, to bring together the Middle Georgia community around a reading initiative. So I thank you very much for all of the help that you provide in educating me about the work that you do and how both the campus affairs team and me as your counsel can support your work. If you ever have any questions, I'm an email away. Thanks.
Thank you, Francis, for your report. At this time, before I get to the voting results, are there any other reports of anybody that I may have missed? Okay, please come up and give yours.
Hi, everyone. I'm going to make this quick. I feel like the pastor who's gone well past noon and need to get you out of here. So first, I want to talk a little bit about admissions and recruitment and what we're doing there. We've revamped campus tours, and last year we saw over 2,500 guests come on our 3 residential campuses, and 800 of those were students. We started Saturday tours in the fall. Once a month, we have a Saturday tour except for certain months. And we're breaking records. Aside from group tours, it's the most students we've ever had on campuses on a single day. And there's a lot of demand. We've actually started to have to close them out. As far as admissions go, we processed over 8,000 applications last year, admitted over 5,000 students, and enrolled 3,100 new students were enrolled. On the marketing and communication side, my team of 2, bless you, the team of 2 created over 500 creative deliverables this year and did all undergraduate and graduate advertising, creative, and placement. We increased digital and social media advertising. The communications team of 3 had over 170 news releases and media coordinations, resulting in over $1 million in advertising equivalents. We produced 2 magazines last year. We had 500 plus posts on Inside MGA. We sent out 30 night alerts, mostly weather related. We had social media growth in both Facebook and Twitter at 26% and 30% respectively. The Finding Greatness profiles, those are up. And here's where I'm going to ask for your help this year. We're trying to tell stories. The USG wants stories. Our public wants stories. So help us tell stories. If you have a student that's got an extraordinary story, pass it on. And there's a mechanism to do that. If you go to the Marcom webpage, there's Start a Project. A project is you just feeding us information. So And the same would apply to faculty. We're trying to tell more faculty stories this year, but we don't know them unless you send them to us. And what I find is most of you are probably too modest and won't submit yourself. So I'd ask you to look at your colleagues and what they're doing and submit it for them so we can tell their story. And use the Startup Project for anything that you need support with. We're now renting out equipment. We can't be everywhere. We've got 3 people, so we can't be on every campus, but you know, a cell phone shot is good for social media. So help us help you tell your stories, and we want to get them out there. Website design, I'm just going to touch on that real quick. There will be a website launching that Roger's team is doing the heavy lifting on. We worked on the front end of that with an outside agency to do focus groups of new students, high school, or current students, high school students, and parents. And we incorporated their feedback into the design, and the design is also going to be responsive to mobile. So I know everybody's going to be excited about that. And lastly, the call center has been renamed the Enrollment Support Team. In the first 8 months of this fiscal year, that team of 7 answered over 47,000 calls and 2,900 chats. And they've recently started outbound call campaigns for retention-related items. And that wraps up my report. Thank you.
Okay, last call. Any other reports? Anybody else that might have been missed? Okay, at this time, you have a new faculty vice chair for next academic year. Peter Garais, professor of English, will be your faculty vice chair. Congratulations to him. Dr. Kimberly Pickens, congratulations to her, associate professor of biology, your parliamentarian. Are there any announcements that need to be made? Any announcements? We've come to the part that all of you have been waiting for. I want to personally thank Carrie, various others that have made this process possible over the last 2 or 3 years of serving in this role. I appreciate your confidence in both Bill and I to do the job. I enjoy doing it, and I'm most happy that Peter Garais will be doing it next year. I will encourage him, and be, his cheerleader, so to speak. So I definitely want to thank all those people. Thanks to our IT people. Thanks to all of the people that attended remotely, to our Warner Robins, Dublin, Cochran, and Eastman campuses. I got numbers from them, and we had good attendance there at all of those locations. So I thank all of those people for attending. And at this time, is there anything needs to be said for the good of the cause, other than I need a motion to adjourn? Do I have a second? Do I have a second? He's tired of hearing me talk to him. That's what it is. Second, all in favor said? Thank you for coming out today. Happy finals.